Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. In this video, I want to quickly take you through how to cut a free size trouser with pockets and a waistband. Now, if you are a beginner or if you have someone that have never sewn anything before in your life, you are going to be able to cut and sew this trouser and it will fit perfectly well. Now, there are only three measurements that you need for this, which is the waist measurement, the crotch measurement, and the trouser length. That is all that you need for this particular tutorial. I have my Ankara fabric folded up and we're just going to go straight into it. We are cutting directly on the fabric for this particular tutorial. Now, the first thing that you need to make sure that you have done before you start to draft your pattern is that you have 1.5 inch lined out here, like you would line out a zip allowance. So just mark a straight line. After measuring 1.5 inch, you're going to just draw a straight line from top to bottom, and then you're going to come and do the same thing on this side as well. So I haven't done for this side. I'm just going to go ahead and mark 1.5 inch. I'm using a red chalk for this, and I hope you guys can properly see what I am doing in this video. The first thing that I'm going to take is the crotch measurement. The crotch I'm using for this trouser is 11. When I want to measure out the 11 inches, I'm not going to start from this line here. Actually, all of your measurements should start from here. But this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to take away 1.5 inch from all of my measurements. So I'm going to shorten my trouser length at the end of the day by 1.5 inch. Why? Because I'm going to be adding a waistband of 1.5 inch width to this trouser. Now, this 1.5 inches right here, I'm going to place it on this line that I drew out and measure out 11. So I have 11 right here. I'm sure you guys can see this one very clearly. And then after this, the next thing that you need to do is to just take in the trouser length. For this, you don't need the hip measurement, you don't need the thigh measurement, and you do not need the knee measurement as well. So I'm going to go ahead and measure out the trouser length. The trouser length for this is 42, and 42 is right here. Notice that I also left the tape rule at this 1.5 inch mark because I'm going to add a band to the trouser to complete this. So I'm going to take 42 inches now. 42 inches is right here. Okay. And now what you're going to do is grab a ruler and draw a straight line. This is really all you need for a free size trouser. It's not complicated. If you're a beginner, you can literally get this done in an hour or two. So I have the lines out. This is the trouser length. This is the crotch line. And this line here is going to serve as the waistline. And this is the part I'm going to tell you why. First, because this is a free size trouser. What you're going to take at the waist really matters, because you have to make sure that what you get at the waist is going to cover the entire hip circumference. So assuming the hip is 40, the waist should be at least 40 inches as well. The actual waist measurement for this client is 40 inches, right? So if I want to take her actual waist measurement, that is 40 divided by 4 would give me 10. And this would be the normal waist measurement that I would take for her. But if I take it like this, considering that I did not draw out the hip line and I'm not taking the hip measurement, if I just take only her waist measurement, knowing that her hips is 44, it's not going to size. She's not going to be able to put it on, especially because I'm going to be adding an elastic waistband to it. So what you're going to do is that you're going to add 3 inches. You heard me, 3 inches to this measurement on this side, which means that you're adding a total of 9 at the end of the day. Now tell me, if somebody's waist is between 35 inches and 49 inches, will this trouser fit them or not? It will, right? That is why it is called a free pants trouser. So I'm going to be adding 3 inches to this. So 3 inches times 4 is what? That's 12. I've added a total of 12 inches to this, which is making the waist to be 52. 52 already covers the hip measurements and everything else. So I'm going to add 3 inches here. For a free pant trouser, you do not need a dart. You do not need to worry about the grain line. But if you want a proper tutorial on how to draft the trouser pattern, I have that on my channel. If you can't find it, go to my playlist, Basic Bodice Pattern or Free Beginner's Guide. You will find everything from basic bodice pattern to basic skirt pattern to basic sleeve pattern, basic dress pattern, and basic trouser pattern as well. So this is just the free pants tutorial. Now I've gone ahead to add 3 inches here, right? Whatever I have here, 13.25, I'm going to bring it to the crotch line as well. Now this is 13.25. And I'm going to draw a straight line to connect the two of them. The next thing I'm going to take is the crotch extension. The crotch extension I want to use for this side is 2.25. So I'm going to mark 2.25 right here. This crotch extension is very important because that's what's going to help the trouser to sit well into the body around the curvy area. So this crotch extension is gonna help with that. Now this crotch extension, I'm going to connect it back in here. You also want to make sure that the curve for this crotch extension is deep enough. So yeah, I have this ready. And with this now, I'm just going to draw a straight line. Now before I connect this side, this 13.25 inch, I'm going to come and mark it here as well, what I have at the waist and at the crotch line. I'm just going to mark it randomly at this point. And at this point as well. Okay. And connect this. Okay. So now that I've connected this part, I'm going to also bring it back in. For this, I'm going to use the part of my curve that is not very sharp, just to bring it in, like this. I'm going to adjust it this way. Okay. For this part, I'm going to be adding 2 inches. After doing this, some people would cut the trouser out like this exactly as it is and put all of the seam allowance at the back, but I don't like doing that because it ends up affecting the crotch. So what I like to do is add half of an inch of whatever it is that I want the total seam allowance to be. So I want to add 1 inch to the seam allowance because I'm using a French seam to cover up those trousers, right? But I'm going to add just half inch to the front and then add the remaining half inch to the back. So the back will be 1 inch plus the half inch from the front I'm transferring to the back. The back seam allowance is going to end up being 1.5 inch instead. So that's going to make the back slightly bigger than the front. And with this, I can go ahead and cut. You guys can see how simple it is to cut a free pants trouser, and you can even make this bigger depending on who you're making this for. But this particular measurement would work for a waist 35 to 52. Now I'm adding the half an inch seam allowance as I'm cutting. I'm not cutting directly on the line. And I'm also going to add half an inch seam allowance to the waist. Very important. You can see that this side have a little bit of shape. It's barely obvious, but it's there. And then I'm going to add half an inch seam allowance to this side as well. Now when I get here, I'm also so half an inch seam allowance was added to the crotch as well. And this, you guys, is the trouser for the front. Cutting the back is very simple because it is a free pants trouser. It's going to be very, very easy to cut the back. Now let me arrange the Ankara fabric and I'll be back. Okay guys, I'm back and I have laid the front pattern on my Ankara fabric so I can cut out the back. So for this one, please and please pay attention because I flipped to the other side so that I can save my Ankara fabric. So this is the front here. This is the crotch. I'm just drawing a line so that you guys can see. Yeah, this is the crotch. Now for this is where the front pattern ends. Here, right here is where the front pattern ends. Yeah, just highlighting random places for you guys to see what I am doing. So for this one now, observe that I moved the front pattern, that's the front of the trouser, all the way to the end of the Ankara. Unlike when I cut the front, for the front, now I cut out a little bit. This is it right here. I cut out a little bit from the bottom of the Ankara, but for this one, I'm moving it all the way down because I want enough space to remain at the top. That's at the waistline of the trouser. Now, this is the waistline of the trouser right here. Okay. So there are three things that we're going to be doing to the back pattern. The first is extending the crotch. So this is the crotch here. This is where it stopped, right? I'm going to add just 1 inch to the crotch measurement, which is right here. So with this, I've extended the back crotch, nothing serious. And then secondly, we want to raise the back of the trouser. This is the middle point of the trouser, right? I want to raise it by 1. So because this is a free trouser, I don't need to worry too much about the trouser exposing too much at the back. That's why I'm adding just 1. If not, there are standard measurements for determining how much to add to the crotch and how much to add to the top here to extend the waist at the back, which I have covered in my standard trouser making class. That is free, by the way, in case if you are wondering if you should pay for it. It's on my YouTube channel, so you can go ahead and check that out. But this is for the free pants trouser, okay? Very simple, very straightforward, very beginner friendly. So I've extended the crotch by 1 inch. Don't worry about whether you're starting from the seam allowance or not. Just add 1 inch and that's that. And then come and add 1 inch to this as well. Forget about whether seam allowance has been added or not. Just do that, okay? So now, this waist measurement is 12.25. Remember that I took 1 inch from what I had before. It was 13.25. I took off 1 inch, so now it's 12.25. You want to make sure that from this extension here, you also have exactly 12.25. So yeah, this is 12.25. It's technically the same thing because the difference is not that much. So we can go ahead and just mark it out like that. So this is the extension added to the back. Now we have raised the back by 1 inch. We have extended the crotch by 1 inch. What I'm just going to do now is reconnect this crotch back into the trouser measurement. Then we can go ahead and cut it out, adding the 1.5 inch seam allowance that I explained earlier to the back. And that is that. So for this, use the part of the curve that's not so sharp and just bring it in like this, and then that's that. So for this side, I'm just going to measure out the 1.5 inch seam allowance to ensure accuracy. I didn't feel the need to do that before, but for this particular one, I most certainly have to. So for this side is the new line that I have from here. Remember, I extended the crotch and I reconnected it. That is where I will measure the 1.5 inch from. Okay, so that's clear. For the crotch, I'm going to be leaving it at 1/2 inch. Although I'm also going to use a French seam for the crotch, but I'm going to take in so little when I'm doing the French seam that 1/2 inch will be enough because you don't want too much fabric around that area. It's going to make it to crease and fold up and it will be very uncomfortable. So I'm leaving the crotch area at 1/2 inch. I can go ahead and cut this out now. So guys, with this, I have successfully cut the front and the back of the trouser. So congratulations, you know how to cut a free pants trouser, but we're not done yet. We still have the band and the pocket to do. Last video, I showed you guys how to cut a free size trouser. Now I want to show you guys how to add pockets to your trouser. Now, this is something that is very easy to do, and most people are always like so scared of it, but trust me, it's one of the easiest thing you can do. Literally the easiest thing that you can do. So I'm going to show you how to do this very quickly. You're going to see how easy it is to cut and to sew as well. Now this is the front pattern. This is the waist area, right? Now what you need for each pocket, you need 2 extra pieces of fabric to complete the pocket. The first thing you want to do is determine how wide and how deep you want the pocket to be. Now, I personally like the trouser pockets to be as deep as the crotch length. Okay, so this including seam allowance. So guys, I've determined the depth of the pocket. If this is a fitted trouser, what I usually do is make sure that the wideness of the pocket stops right before the dart. But since this is a free pants trouser, I'm just going to do this. 10, which is the depth, divided by 2 plus 2 inches. So 10 divided by 2 is 5, 5 plus 2 is 7, and that is it. Now this is 7 inches. Whatever it is, just go ahead and add 1 inch. I'm marking out 8 here. At the top, this fabric is on fold, by the way, just in case you're wondering. So 8 for the depth, I'm going to go ahead and mark 10.5. All right guys, now let's take this away so you can focus right on this. Now this is the box here. This is all you need. I'm just going to divide it here. Okay, and now to really make this blend into the trouser, this is the first thing you're going to do. The first thing you're going to do is align it like this. So make sure that the ends are matching. The reason why you're putting it on top, if this trouser is well shaped, you're going to have to shape in the pocket to match with the shape of the trouser. Remember that I took off 1 inch from the waist, so you can see that there is that gap here. Now I have to shape in this pocket to meet with the trouser shape. Let me do this again. So you want to make sure that the pockets, the all 4 pieces, they both align at the top, and at the side here there is no gap, meaning the pockets, they should be matching with this. There should be no gap that is like maybe wider like this or shorter. Everything should be just right. Okay, now that I've done that, I can shape in the pocket. This is what I'm going to take out. And with this now, the pocket is the same shape as the trouser, which is very important because you're basically going to be using one piece of the pocket to add back to the shape of the trouser. After doing this, the next thing to do is to make sure that you notch all of this side. I'm just going to make a slash like this so that I know exactly what it is meant, where this side is meant for. Now the reason why I'm making this notch is so that you don't mix it up. The shape is not that obvious, so you can end up taking this side that's already shaped to this side instead of here. So notching it here is going to tell me that this is for the top and is coming towards the side of the trouser. Now the second thing that you're going to do is take away two pieces out now. We're not going to be working with these two pieces. What matters now, what is really going to bring the pocket to life now is the next step. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and cut out the pockets. For this part, it's important to look at the seam allowance. So the seam allowance that I've added to the front is 1/2 inch, like I said earlier. So I'm just going to come in by 2 inches from that 1/2 inch mark, meaning that I'm coming in with a total of 2.5 inch. So by 1/2 inch, and from the seam allowance, ignore the seam allowance and make sure that you mark down at least 5 inches. Okay, 5 inches. But I'm going to make this 5.5. Let me just make it 5.5. Use a ruler to connect these 2 points together. You can decide to make it straight, you can decide to make it curved. I personally used to make this curve, but for this particular one, I think I would leave it straight. So just cut out a straight something like this. And then when you want to cut out, make sure you're not cutting into the seam allowance. And you're just going to cut it out. So you're cutting it away from the trouser and from the remaining two pieces of the pockets. So now this is what I have, and this is what the pockets underneath look like. Now let me tell you why I did this like this. Let me separate all of the pieces out for you guys to see. So this is the first one. This one that we did not cut out, that I took out in the beginning, is going to replace what has been cut off from the trouser. Now you can see that the trouser looks complete again, right? Except now there's a space here, and this space is the pockets. While this remaining two parts that I cut out along with the front pattern is going to be what I'm going to use to face the rough edge of the trouser. And after using it to face the rough edge of the trouser, I would attach it to this one, forming a kind of bag inside the trouser that gives the pockets. And that is basically how to cut the pocket. The important thing now is to go ahead and sew all of this together, and that is going to be an entirely different tutorial.